Okay, we're streaming live on YouTube. Brian, you can go ahead.
Great, thanks, Kevin. So hello, everyone. I think I'd like to take a couple of minutes here just to allow folks to join and kind of get settled in, make sure that we've got all of our attendees here, and then we'll get rolling in a minute or two. So thanks for your patience, and yeah, we'll be ready very shortly. All right, I'd like to get started. So good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Hacker. I'm a coordinating planner with the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development in the West region, the project manager for the Altenheim line / Lawndale line planning study here that we're going to be discussing this evening. So I'd like to this virtual meeting. We held an in-person workshop a week ago, and this is the virtual equivalent of that. So if you did happen to attend the meeting last week, you're probably in for a lot of repetition over what you saw in person. So just keep that in mind. Just in terms of the structure this evening, to take a look at our agenda, we're going to be presenting different aspects of the planning study that we have completed so far. This is the midpoint, and then we're going to be offering some. We're going to be doing some instant polling to try to engage with folks in a different kind of way, and then we'll also be offering some Q&A. So you will get a chance to raise your hand and speak. And then also take part in the instant polling, which you can do using your phone or your laptop, and we'll provide a little bit of on that once we get to it. So as you can see here, the agenda that we've got set out for us tonight, we have we're going to start off with some introductions of the project team in addition to myself, provide a little bit of background information on the project, discuss some of the market research that we've done and some of the development opportunities that are out there in the study area around the Altenheim rail line that we're looking at. And then we're going to be looking at the rail line itself and the potential to convert it into open space and transportation amenity in the community. And then we'll close it out with some kind of open discussion. And then, like I said, we'll be also sliding in some opportunities to discuss what we're presenting and give your feedback in the agenda itself. So it won't just be at the end. I want to make sure that voices are heard in tonight's workshop. So first of all, I want to acknowledge Alderman Michael Scott Jr. of the 24th Ward and Alderman Jason Irvin of the 28th Ward and their contributions to this project. And, we're really grateful to have them on as collaborative partners. The study area includes sections of both of their wards, and they've both been involved in this process and, supportive. So, it's, not just the department DPD that's leading this. We're also working with the Department of Housing and the Department of Transportation, as well as the NLCCC organization, which is very prominent in North Lawndale, as I'm sure you're aware. And we've also enlisted the help of a very talented consultant team. It's led by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. We've got some members of that team who are going to be helping with the presentation and with the facilitation of comments and feedback tonight. So first off, I'd like to introduce David Scully from SOM. David, if you want to say hello.
Thanks, Brian. Carmen, we're still masked up, but really excited to be here with you guys and to talk a little bit about the opportunities of the line and with the larger team. So thank you.
And then just going by my window here, we got Jesse Green, NLCCC. Jesse, you there? You want to say a quick hello, even though everyone knows you?
Hi, good evening. Jesse Green with North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council. Thanks for everybody for joining us tonight for this exciting project.
And then Paul Peters from Hood Design.
Hello, everyone. Paul Peters from Hood Design Studio, and excited to be here and get your feedback on this great project. Thank you.
And last but not least, Karen Kay from SB Friedman.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Karen Kay with SB Friedman. As the slide says, we're focused on market analysis, development strategies, and also preserving affordability.
All right. Thanks, everybody. So just in case you haven't been following along yet, or we're at a previous public meeting, I want to provide a little bit of background for what we're here to do. As I mentioned, this is the Altenheim / Lawndale line planning study that we're working on, and we kicked this off over the. So the goal of this is to take a look at an existing elevated rail line that runs through the west side. About a 2-mile stretch of it that the city has an opportunity to in the long term convert into a bike and pedestrian trail, as well as an open space amenity, and also leverage that investment as a potential development opportunity in an area where the city owns a lot of land. So we can get into that in a little bit more detail later on. But, if you're familiar with the location, between Taylor Street and Fillmore, and the stretch that we're looking at is, roughly out from, not quite consistent with the slide, but California to Costner is really what we're focusing in on. So to give you some background on the timeline here, you can see we're kind of right in the middle. We've already held a public meeting, which was back in August, which was over at the Douglas Park Auditorium. And, we got that initial feedback and, kind of synthesized that along with some market research and, other background and, field work and, other research to get to this community meeting today, where we're going to share some design concepts and some development concepts for opportunity sites in the neighborhood. And then we'll be coming back to you again either in late November, early December, to present a draft plan and get feedback before we finalize it towards the end of the year and hopefully wrap this up in early 2022. So this is a map of the area around the line. So, this is kind of northern part of North Lawndale. There's some sections of Garfield Park that I believe also touch the line according to the Chicago Community Area map. And, as you can see from Costner on the west over to roughly California on the east side. And, this intersects with Independence. It's very near to Douglas Park. So this can provide some key connections. If you're familiar with the Roosevelt Costner RFP, that's part of the Invest Southwest initiative. That's at the far west end here. It goes through the Homan Square campus, important historic landmark in the community. And let's see, David, still doing the video. help me out here.
No, sorry, I just dropped in some photos of the line itself, so kind of people get a sense of the feel of what it is and how it runs through the community. It's probably something you've driven under countless times, or kind of observed from afar. But this is kind of what we're talking about. So just a couple of photos to illustrate the line outside of a plan diagram, make it a little bit more visual. This is a photo on the line we took in one of our walks. So it's a really great opportunity to engage in the community, and we'll talk to you guys a little bit more about that later in the presentation.
Thanks, David. And yeah, we will be also posting a video that David and his team created for the public workshop on the webpage. So if you go to chicago.gov/DPD, there is a section on that homepage for the department that shows active projects, and this is listed there. So it's linked directly to that that DPD homepage there. And we've got all kinds of fun stuff like video and just some of the boards that we presented at the previous public meetings, and other information about the project. So I'm going to touch on the project goals here before I hand it off to David and the rest of his team to get more into the details here. But again, just providing some key background information. What we're hoping to accomplish with this project is multifaceted. Obviously, first of all, we want to consider what the recreational and open space opportunities are for the line itself, and hear from the community how that space should be programmed, and what are the best ways to access it? How can it best, functionally serve the community, and be something that people can use as a recreational and transportation amenity. Then we also want to take a look at the redevelopment opportunities that are in the area. As we know, like I've seen in other examples, when the city is considering a major investment in amenity, this it affects the development in the surrounding area. So we're looking at industrial, commercial, and vacant parcels in the nearby area, and what that redevelopment could look like, what the community thinks about that. We also want to make sure that growth and new development is equitable and reflects community feedback. And so how can like what we're trying to do with Invest Southwest, how can we support local businesses? How can we create jobs that can go to members of the community? And also addressing some of the apprehension that may come with projects like this. How can we again make sure that investment in the community is equitable, and that it's not going to have disparate impacts on residents who are already in the community, or folks who are looking for affordable living options in the community. So as I mentioned earlier, we're working with the Department of Housing and also experts on the consultant team to leverage programs and policies that are out there and that the city is working on in other communities to potentially apply here. Should displacement and housing affordability become issues due to the investment that would occur with this project. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to David. So again, thanks again for everyone joining us here tonight, and looking forward to getting your feedback.
Great, thanks, Brian. So a couple of key things that I think are, we think are really worth noting about this project specifically. A key thing is this idea of understanding rails with trails, in that because of the easement, currently owned by the I believe CSX rail company, we will have to keep a portion of the line available for right-of-way for the rail lines that exist today. This is a much wider section than, for instance, the 606. So there's still a lot of opportunity to program these spaces, but that's just something that we wanted to be, bring to you guys to talk a little bit about and to bring to the project. There it goes. Oh, yeah. All right, I can control your screen. So one of the key things is also understanding what that means, and this is not the first place that has happened. So there's a lot of examples that we've been pulling from to help to understand what that means in a space. Brian, I may just say next slide because it's a little tough to maybe make this control work. All right. So one of the key things that we also did, as Brian mentioned, is this idea of learning from other communities. This is not the first place that has had these sort of linear parks, that there's a real opportunity to see what they've done, that's worked well, and also learn from, places that, have had this development and have had investment happen afterwards, and make sure that it's happening in an equitable way, that it's happening for the benefit of the folks who are already in the community as well, that this is a resource and it's a pathway to, a prosperity for the community as well. So really looking into some of those examples and learning together as a team about that. Next slide. So this is a little, kind of short recap video of the last session that we had as far as a community meeting. And we talked a lot about this, and a couple of key things that came out of that is, the name. So the name is, still up for debate, and this is some of the things that were written by some of your neighbors. We also talked a little bit about the line itself and what sort of activity and, sort of programming can happen along the line. So really taking all of that into account, active, passive, recreational, celebrating history as part of that as well. And finding spaces to address some of these key themes, addressing safety and activity. But then how the line interfaces with the community and creates an economic growth potential, understanding what those things that community folks were wanting to see out of that sort of investment, and development without displacement is a key thing that continues to pop up in that conversation. So really leveraging that and leveraging the fact that we do have city-owned vacant lots to really, create a strategy that's holistic, that's both the design of the line as well as the economic development that happens pursuant to that. So today we're going to talk more about that. We've developed more ideas based off of those initial conversations, and we're excited to share a little bit more in-depth work about the market, as well as these what we're calling focus areas, and the design of the line itself. So next slide. So I'll hand it to Karen to talk. Oh no, we'll start off with, I think, the Insta poll. So I'll hand it back to Brian.
Yeah, I'm just going to switch on my screen here. So yeah, we've got this instant polling in here, and we want to start off with a couple of questions to, a little, let's see, just kind of get some big picture feedback, and also help you get comfortable with the instant polling if you haven't used it already. So if you go to the website menti.com, so menti.com, and then you enter the code in that's at the top of the screen, so 61597308, you can participate in answering this question. So here, this is just like kind of like a open-ended question here. So if you make a comment on this, it should pop up on the screen. With that in mind, please be considerate, and also, use good judgment in your comments there. So don't want to have to shut this down, due to inappropriate comments. So I'll give folks a minute here to give it a shot, and you should see responses pop up on the screen once you get a chance to connect. If you have any questions, also please feel free to enter those into the chat. And
Nice. It's great to see some of these initial, sort of thoughts. No gentrification, inclusive, healthy, healthy. Really, kind of being at the center of this, which is great. Completion, like making it happen. Okay, and that's, I think, a key part of this is to understand we're at the beginning of this process, and rightfully so. I think we're trying to bring everybody together to have that sort of an in-depth conversation about, and bring kind of the tools to bear from the beginning, and not waiting until it's already happening to do something.
Yeah.
Safety, I'm saying beautification, One Lawndale, Black culture and pride.
I think too, this really echoes a lot of the things that we've heard so far, about, bringing an identity to this that's fitting of North Lawndale on the west side, and the many different benefits that this could bring in terms of like, public health and wellness, but also just, being, a fun place for families to spend time on, and, a point of pride in the community, but then also, wanting to make sure that those folks who are here now can stick around to enjoy it too. So really appreciate these comments here. And just because we have another one here as well. So if you can, get those last responses in, this will all be saved on our account here. So yeah, I am going to go ahead and advance to the next. So again, this one, I'm sorry, that last one was the word cloud. This one you can make longer comments on this. So in 10 to 15 years, what are some aspirational headlines you would like to see written about this project? So, if we do a good job and this project turns out according to, the community's goals and priorities for it, like, what would be written about it? Oops.
Go ahead. Yeah, these are great. Replicated every neighborhood. Right. Successful pilot for future projects. Sustainable revolving line that is used by North and South Lawndale. Restoration of North Lawndale community without displacement. Yes. These are fantastic, and this is great because it gets this is helps us as a design team to continue to move some of these ideas forward, and a lot of this is resonating with kind of what we've heard so far in our last several community engagements and meetings that we've had.
Yeah, definitely appreciate these comments. These are, very thoughtful and, pretty diverse in what they're addressing here. These are really excellent. Really appreciate the thoughtful feedback on these. I'm sorry to, I'm trying not to scroll too quickly, but make sure that we're seeing new ones pop up too.
The Roosevelt Road is back. Just open space, increase life expectancy. Yeah.
much needed investment in the community that does not displace the current community. Trail enables more visitors from across Chicago to visit, live, work, and play in North Lawndale. One of the most diverse communities. Housing prices increased, and North Lawndale is the most safe neighborhood. Let's see, community benefits financially as many developers will. An initiative that invited all people. West Side residents support the rail trail and benefit from its completion. No displacement, hundreds of neighbors use the area. Growth and booming economy in North Lawndale, and then LGA make North Lawndale great again. So you're already doing a little branding here already. Segregation no more. Lawndale line spurs new investment on the west side. So yeah, these are fantastic. Thank you very much. Sculptures on the new North Lawndale path. Existing homeowners have help rehabbing to meet the standards of rental properties. Restaurants return to North Lawndale. Rail trail is great art. Trail spurs Black home ownership and business boom. Coordination between city departments allows work on the trail to also support the restoration of the Central Park Theater and other historic spaces that will grow wealth and jobs in North Lawndale. This is certainly something that we're already anticipating. Local artists beautify local trail. And again, you know, just so we make sure we have enough time to address everything we want to hit on in this meeting, I am going to close this down, or you may even still be able to go back, and you may still be able to add it, but I'm going to take it off of the screen and go back to the presentation. Okay. So I'm going to hand it off to, I believe, Karen or David here.
Yep.
Yep, Karen.
Thanks. Thanks, Brian. So quickly, we're going to walk through just a few really high-level market findings and what we're seeing. And I wish we had more time to talk about all of the exciting initiatives that we've heard about through community interviews and talking to nonprofits active in this space. Brian, do I have controls, or can you flip to the next slide? But not to confuse I know a couple people asked for clarity in their one-word description on what the project was. So I want to be really clear as we're talking about the markets that there's two components that we're really digging into a little bit deeper today. This first half of the presentation, we'll be talking about the development around the actual public investment. And I want to be clear that that is all just based on the idea that if you have a public investment, typically you see development pop up around it. And because, as Brian already alluded to, the city is a landowner in this zone and has so much influence over the development landscape, we're studying the impact of that investment on the landscape. So this initial discussion about the market and the transformational impact around nodes is really just designed to kind of understand what the community wants to see in the broader development spectrum, and then we'll talk about the line design itself as we go further. So really quickly, demographics along the line. There's about 5,200 households that live within the study area that David kind of outlined from the beginning. The median household income today is about $25,000. We saw really slight growth in the population from 2010 to 2020, so pretty stagnant, but you know, marginal increase. And then a majority Black neighborhood. You can see the map on the top is showing a dot for every person within the study area, and your green dots on the map are people who report being Black, and then you can see the other color coding as well. Average household size is 3 people per household, so lots of families in the neighborhood as well. Flip to the next slide, Brian. We heard both in prior interviews that we've done, and then also I just saw some of the comments in that initial Menti survey that folks are really interested in job generating uses along this line. So one of the market types that we're looking at is industrial, and where we see opportunity. The right land spaces for industrial within this corridor. And if you look at the existing land use today, you can see that the vast majority of industrial properties along this study area are really clustered to the western extent, so Costner, and then further west, so towards the end of the line. And then we know from kind of tracking the Invest Southwest Roosevelt Costner RFP site that a number of the responses to that RFP really included job generating industrial uses. So there is some development momentum, and then there's also been the K-Town Business Center is kind of a new construction, 60,000 square foot center, about $4 million of recent investment. So you do see some industrial traction, and we've heard that there will be, or we know there will be some other traction as we move forward as well. It's just about finding the right spaces and the right users that really benefit local employment as opposed to kind of the opposite to that. You flip to the next slide. We're also looking at transforming retail centers. I think there was a comment about bring West Roosevelt back and make it really vibrant is kind of what I took away from that. We've had existing conversations about what kinds of retail users the community would like to see. And you can see those are, this was a discussion-based question last week, and hopefully we get your opinion as we go through some more survey questions later on. But we've heard that additional grocery stores, access to food, bike shops, bookstores, restaurants, entertainment, all of those kinds of uses we want to see more of, and more activation in the retail spaces that are predominantly along Roosevelt. And one of the things that we're really interested in looking at is the consumer spend power of the community today. And so you can see from the 3 maps that are side by side on the top, it's showing a heat map of where people come from who are shopping at 3 different grocery stores. And I know the maps are really small, but the gray line that's dead center in all 3 is Roosevelt. And so you can see that the Leamington Foods, which is kind of smack center within the study area, that is the smallest draw area of any grocery store. You can see that hot red area is really focused right around the Leamington Foods, whereas Pete's Fresh Market on Madison, that hot red area is coming from a much broader geography, and it's actually attracting a ton of households from within our study area who are going further away to access that grocery. We see the same thing with the Jewel Osco. And so one of the things we're thinking about is leakage within the market when you're traveling further than you need to get to different retail centers that have more vibrancy or more uses that you're looking for in a shopping center. And so we're trying to figure out how do you capture that more locally so that you can have access to the retail that you want within your neighborhood, your community. Go on to the next slide. Our last big kind of topic area that we're focused on is increasing homeownership, and we've talked about affordability really at a high level already, but one of the things that we're tracking is existing homeownership. You can see this map is showing in yellow. The map on the top is showing in yellow any parcel that's residential within the study area that claimed a homeownership exemption in Cook County Assessor's data. Anything in brown did not, so it's a rental property. And you can see about 42% of the total number of residential parcels claimed a homeownership, but when we look at the actual number of households in the study area, it's only about 22% of the total households. And since 2010, that number has declined. So in 2010, about 26% of households were owner occupied. In 2019, it's 22%. So we're seeing a decline in homeownership, and what we want to do is to preserve affordability long-term, and we know that that starts with homeownership. So we're really focused on how we can bend to that trend, and we know that there are a number of local initiatives led by nonprofits, and the city is interested in kind of supporting those initiatives as well as we move forward. Which brings me to my last slide, Brian. If you look at the couple examples that we have in the middle here, this is just kind of a disclosure to everyone that the city is really taking ownership and affordability seriously as we move forward with the public investment. We know that we've been looking at case studies that say that Rails to Trails does increase home values surrounding lines, and so the city is engaging in early discussions about affordability, looking at different tools that would be the most applicable for the study area. And that could be anything from increasing the overall number of affordable owner-occupied units that require subsidy, increasing the number of co-op housing units that are more affordable for housing, providing down payment assistance programs, preserving the existing more affordable housing inventory that is in the community today that is at risk of declining affordability without those protections, and then also community land trusts, and then just building additional rental legally restricted affordable housing as well. So those are all kind of ideas and strategies that are on the table. We're continuing to explore which ones are most appropriate for the study area. And then the last thing I'll say is the Department of Housing has also recently pulled together this Housing Programs and Services for Residents toolkit that you can see on the far right-hand side of the screen. Some of those toolkit strategies are going to be best practices that are applied to this corridor as well. But if you're interested in learning more about housing programs, you can scan that QR code or kind of Google that tagline, and you can get more information today about the programs that exist. Because we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We know that there's a lot of great affordability programs out there already. Brian, with that, I'll hand it back over to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Karen. So yeah, we have some more questions related to this. So pull up the Menti screen again. So this is related to housing affordability and anti-displacement here. So which of the affordability strategies that you see here would you like to see prioritized? And so this is a ranking exercise. So, you know, just prioritizing from first to last, you know, what you think would be the most effective versus the least, not necessarily effective, but, you know, maybe the least appropriate in this neighborhood. So should be able to begin responding to that. So we've got 6 people responding now. It's kind of fun to watch the bars sort of jump around there, but it does look like affordable, you know, home ownership is got a got a solid handle on #1 there, as well as so right now with 11 people expanding home ownership assistance programs. Preserve existing affordable housing, shared ownership and co-op housing, #4, and then building new affordable rental housing. So kind of under each of these strategies, there are, you know, multiple, you know, programs and, you know, that could apply. Give it just a, you know, so we got a comment from someone, don't know how to comment or interact. I'm not sure if you're talking about the poll, but if you can use the browser on your phone or Google on your phone, you could go to menti.com and then you just punch in this code. It's when you go to that homepage, you should be prompted to enter the code in 61597308. It's on the screen as well. Okay, I'm going to move to our next question here. Oh, so actually, I'm sorry. That's the only question that we've got related to housing affordability. And we are going to do a Q&A soon, but I'm going to pass it off to Karen and David to discuss the other aspect of this, you know, section of the presentation on the redevelopment focus areas.
Thanks, Brian. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the key things that, you know, I think you guys kind of caught it, you know, right on in the comments earlier. You know, we sort of, you know, did a larger evaluation of, you know, sort of vacant sites in the community, you know, sort of where there's some areas that may be underutilized or could be or are active and have opportunities around them to, you know, sort of potentially grow or expand. So we identified this, what we're calling focus areas, or, you know, sort of micro districts, you know, some of these smaller areas that, you know, so we see having, you know, sort of some potential to really be anchors for all of the things that you talked about, you know, sort of moving from west to east, or yeah, if you go to the next slide, you know, like each one of these has a separate characteristic. And we also see kind of a you know, a varied opportunity in each one. So kind of going west to east, understanding, Pulaski having existing manufacturing that exists there, but also some vacant sites and some large parking lots, and trying to figure out what the opportunity is. So we'll talk a little bit about that, each one of these in a second. But Central Park Theater being a key node as well. Homan Square, of course, with all the activity that's already happening there. The Lawndale Plaza, which is the shopping center right there on Homan and Roosevelt, being a center. And then further to the east, what we're calling Campus Green, but this large vacant site really at the merger of the rail lines, really being these sort of 5 districts that we see having potential for future investment and development. You go to next. So, in the Pulaski district, one of the focus area, one of the things that we really saw was that there's, it really a slew of existing assets that can be built upon, as well as some larger sites. So, trying to understand in a little bit more depth what's going on there today with the existing manufacturing. Is there methods or opportunity to strengthen that and find other job generating uses that can work together with those industries, as well as, sort of finding, what those development opportunities and what those job opportunities could do in tandem with the future of the Roosevelt and Costner site and how those can kind of work together. Next slide. The Central Park Theater focus area really is trying to build off of what we see as a really amazing anchor, and we know there's activation happening there right now with the Chicago Architectural Biennial, as well as many local groups that are already focused on reactivating that, and we see that as a huge asset. So how to find what those other opportunities are that could pair with the theater to really create a district focused around the theater and the other major anchors in this area, such as UCAN and the African Heritage Garden. Next slide. Homan, Square focus area. You guys are probably already familiar with all the things that are happening there with Nichols Tower, the YMCA, the Homan Community Center. And that there's a slew of additional opportunities with the administration building, with potential for reactivation of other sites nearby. So we're really interested in trying to understand what that could be and how to really play off of the positive activity that's happened, with the Homan Square Foundation and many others who are really made sure that something has continued to evolve in this area. Next slide. The Lawndale Plaza focus area really, looks to try and strengthen the existing retail nodes. As we heard in the comments earlier, the need for retail and the need to really, kind of make, understand and figure out how we could make this a destination for a larger catchment area, and bringing folks in this community is key. So trying to understand, is there opportunity for outcrop parcels on the parking lot? Is there opportunity for reactivation of the cinema that's there as well? And we've heard a lot of different, sort of thoughts on that already, and we're excited to hear a little bit more today as well. And lastly, the sort of Campus Green, what we're calling Campus Green focus area, really looks to be a connector and be a really a destination at the end of the line to reactivate what is, I believe, an existing orange rated building and vacant area around it. There's some city-owned land as well as other potential that could really, build on this site and connect what's happening to the north with Chicago Hope Academy and all the energy that's happening there, and to the south with the Ogden Commons project. So there's a real opportunity to really meet in the center where the line and all of those elements connect. And I'll pass it back to Brian to ask a couple of questions for you guys about what you think about those areas and development in the community.
Yeah, thanks, David. So yeah, mentioned we're going to go to because I moved it ahead. Some folks already began to respond to multiple choice question, which is great. So what types of new development would be on Roosevelt Road? We try to make just some more simple categories here. So yeah, please go ahead and enter your responses in, and just asking you to prioritize 2. I think you can also enter 1 in if you'd like. But yeah, it looks like a mixed use, residential and retail development is certainly getting a good response, as well as institutional uses.
It's interesting, no multifamily residential.
That is very interesting. Not a 1.
Yeah. And I think I think also table say, I know we got maybe 40 minutes or so left, but we're also going to open it up on these last 2 sections for kind of more of an open Q&A. So if you have questions or thoughts, kind of we're getting ready to do that as well after we finish the Mentee questions.
Yeah, I believe we've got one more question here. So it does seem kind of like, the popcorn has kind of stopped popping in the microwave. So I'm going to move. So same kind of question, but for Home and Square. And the options here are a little bit different too, because I think that there's it's not just a larger, kind of commercial corridor like Roosevelt is. So, as David mentioned, there's redevelopment opportunity in Home and Square, and some larger sites even that could change over and become something different. So I'd like to get your feedback here, and also appreciate everybody too being so interactive with this process here, because we will allow you the opportunity to speak up as well, but in just a moment here. But this is really helpful for us to get quantifiable feedback from the community. Just checking the Q&A here. We're glad to see that Mary Lou's cat weighing in on the process as well. And also your comment, I can also read aloud. So multifamily residential by itself is better placed on ancillary streets, not commercial corridors. Yeah. Thank you. Give it a little bit more time here in case anyone else would like to respond. So yeah, seeing multiple selections here that are getting responses. So low density residential. I mean, obviously that there is an opportunity to on a lot of smaller residential size lots in that area to kind of continue with the infill development that's already there. Mixed use residential and commercial and institutional. So there are already some institutional uses that are there, and we realize this is not the same kind of campus as area as like what you're seeing on the corridor of Roosevelt. So the opportunities are different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one thing I want to say here as well is that we have these sort of 5 focus areas, but that doesn't mean we're ignoring sort of the vacant lots that are within the community that are sort of ripe for infill. I think we understand that, and that is also part of the strategies that we'll try and outline as well. But trying to also have sort of what are those big splashes that we can start to coordinate and strategize about as well.
Okay, so I'm going to, well, we can actually keep this open here, and folks can continue to respond. I'm just going to take it down off the screen and go back to our presentation here. So now, if you would like to ask a question verbally, please feel free to raise your hand, and I can give folks permission to unmute through the webinar. So, and this would be comments and questions related to the development portion of the project. And we'll also get to the, recreational open space programming elements in the next section. Okay. Barbara Stewart. Go ahead, Barbara. It looks like you're muted.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you got to mute yourself. Sorry, I should have.
Okay. Am I good to go?
Yes, you are.
Yes, we can hear you, Barbara.
Okay, I'm a longtime resident and a legacy property owner within the community. And the thing that I'm interested in is, will there be any programs to help existing homeowners bring their property standards up so that they can compete with rentals in the development area?
Yeah, that's a great question, Barbara. And this is actually something that we've talked about with the Department of Housing. That they in the meeting that we had with them to talk about how they've handled some of these issues in other parts of the city and how those efforts could apply here. One of the things they mentioned, and this is around the 606 appropriate.
I lost you. I lost your audio. I'm not getting. Okay. But it's hard for existing, or I'm a woman of a certain age to compete with developers that can build a new structure, and I'm still trying to rent out my property that has not been upgraded to a certain point. So I would need some assistance in getting that done.
Yes, absolutely. I think where Brian was going was to, we're having those sort of conversations with Department of Housing as part of this study to kind of get that queued up, and that's something that they've also mentioned that they're seeing in some of the other community areas that they're working in. So it's definitely I think on the menu with this sort of effort to try and sort of align and support folks like yourself who are sort of homeowners and property owners who are running smaller scale rental properties, to keep those kind of in the sort of mix and active and working as residential properties. But I'll definitely make sure to note that, and that's something that we can continue to evolve with Department of Housing support and DPD support.
Because like entrepreneurs within the neighborhood are what drive the economics within the neighborhood, then also the smaller rental people are those that keep the affordability closer to what the neighborhood is used to. The developers can come in and set a scale that automatically cuts out residents that have been here for years.
Mhm.
Just my concern.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to add that, Barbara, I appreciate the comment, and we'll definitely make sure that we continue those conversations with the Department of Housing. But normally when there is a rehabilitation program, it's kind of in exchange for preserving affordability. And so, we want to keep ownership local, and we want to keep those, smaller rental properties that are currently in the hands of the community, and then slightly more affordable than, outside commercial development that may or may not occur.
Thank you.
Brian, do we have you back?
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. It's the joys of
Yep, so,
here. So, all right. Fortunately, our team is extremely talented that we're working with here, so probably do a better job than I. Anybody else before we move on? I don't see any other hands raised.
There's actually a number of them, Brian.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry. I'm just
sorry. I forgot I'm the
okay.
host now.
Let's see. Blanche. I believe you're. So why don't you go ahead?
Okay. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Blanche Killingsworth, the North Lawndale Historical and Cultural Society, as well as the Central Park Theater Restoration Committee. My concern with Roosevelt Road is that as developers come in and build on the vacant land that's there, and especially if there are going to be businesses in those developers' project, will there be an RFP sent out to the community for the existing businesses that may be home-based but qualified, have their businesses in order, or smaller businesses in the Lawndale, the opportunity to go up on Roosevelt Road? Because traditionally, Roosevelt has been known as one of the central shopping districts of North Lawndale. So I would like to see more businesses from the community, therefore the money stays in the community. And I'd like to see them on Roosevelt Road and the opportunity for them to be on Roosevelt Road.
Yeah, Blanche, for your comment and question there. I mean, first of all, I think that from the Department of Planning standpoint, that we absolutely agree with that, and through our programs like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, that literally is giving funding to help locate a business that's owned by a restaurant that's owned by a Lawndale resident, a new. They currently have another location, so a new location on Roosevelt Road. So thanks to that program, this is also something that we're prioritizing on the at the Ogden Avenue RFP site. So we just recently selected a developer for some city-owned land that's between Homan and Trumbull, and that proposal includes space for like entrepreneurs who are looking to get a start. But the city owns some property on Roosevelt, and where we do own more property, that's where we have a chance to kind of call the shots on who's going to be located there, and really try to do things like promote local entrepreneurs and encourage local hiring. But even where there's private we do have some incentives to locate local businesses there through like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and ideally giving startup businesses or expanding businesses money to get off the ground in the community, and that program prioritizes communities like North Lawndale. So let's see, I'd like to go next to Eric Ortiz. So Eric, you should be able to speak. Okay. Okay, Eric, you need to unmute yourself if you're asking a
There
question.
we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? My main thing is here, I'm actually a new homeowner in the area. I bought my building about 4 years ago. When I was like 23 years old, wanted to like kind of come into an affordable housing area. And my main concern with some of these projects are when the city brings up all of these projects, there's one of the polls showed that a lot of people aren't concerned with multi households. One of the issues that it makes it really hard to keep a hold of like a building here is the lack of kind of help from the city for buildings that are more than 2 floors. I own a 3 flat. There's lots of 3 flats in the area, and none of them are actually owned, or I can see very little are owned by actual people besides it being investors. So one of the issues that I came across when I actually bought my home was not being able to afford almost to keep a hold of it because of you get very shut out by the assistance from the city, where water reduction rates are only for 2 flats. Repair programs are only shut off to 3 flats. You know, they cut it off at 2 floors. So that's why I see it very hard for most homeowners to or for investors that are individuals in the area, they want to invest in the area to hold these buildings because they're cut off from a lot of financial assistance from the city. So my issue is once this, like one of the things that I'm scared of is once this project comes in is once the developers start getting a hold of these larger buildings, what is gonna allow individuals to keep a hold of buildings that are either 2, 3, or even 4 flats?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's certainly nuanced, and I'm not sure that I have a very good response for you because it sounds like it's something that you've researched, and I would have to defer to like the Department of Housing on this, and they're not represented in this meeting, unfortunately. But what I can tell you is that as part of this project, we are going to assemble a toolkit for residents and just to preserve affordability and prevent displacement. I would encourage you to go on the Department of Housing website, and they recently released a a resource guide around this. If it's called Home, actually. So if you look on their website and search for it, it might even be probably on their main web page. There is a list of resources that are there, but I think that we would look to expand what's currently out there to try to fit the concerns of the community here. So what is out there now is not necessarily the end all be all. Andrea Cole, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, I am from the neighborhood. I'm familiar with the neighborhood. I actually work at Holy Family Ministry as an art teacher. And my biggest concern is with you guys coming into the neighborhood, like everyone is explaining, like the prices will go up. Will it help the people that's already there? Because it is an urban neighborhood, and then many urban neighborhoods in Chicago has been going through this gentrification process. I am looking at the panel and I only see one person that looks like me. And I'm not okay with thinking like, are you guys are doing this for the community? Or are you guys doing this for yourself? Because as me being an artist, most of you guys, we guys come to communities, you guys open up these things and you say it's gonna be a lot of things for the community to do. Like I saw there's going to be for businesses and for homes, but most of us know that once you guys do start redeveloping, we get pushed out. Prices go up. People can't afford to stay there anymore. And then we also I have children artists that are African American and Hispanic that have great work, but I also do know that you tend to bring in other artists to do murals and not utilize the community once you do get the okay. Now that is my problem with you guys redeveloping. It's a beautiful idea. I'm not gonna even lie. That neighborhood has always been beautiful to me, and it's always, to me, it always seemed like it needed to be uplift. But once again, once the economy dropped, a lot of people lost their jobs through COVID. So this was a chance for people to take up these places and see these places and buy them for a lower price. So I want to know, like, are you guys, because you're saying this is what you want to do for the community, you're coming in saying you're coming in, you're going to invite the community to do this, but is that so?
Yeah, well, thanks for your comment and your question, Andrea. I mean, first of all, I would just like to, point out that, the Department of Planning and Development is our head is Maurice Cox, who's an African-American man who previously worked in before he came here, and that just our leadership is very diverse. Our first deputy commissioner, and Wesley, is also African American. The deputy commissioner of the Bureau of Planning and Urban Design is Claudia Erasme, who is Latino, and that we do certainly have broad representation in our department. I just want to point that out. And then another thing that I'd like to point to, just in terms of not just the city, but the Department of Planning's commitment to North Lawndale and equitable development there. Right now, our big effort in the community is through Invest Southwest and redeveloping a couple of sites in the community at Roosevelt and Costner, and then on Ogden Avenue. So at both of these sites, one of the developers has been announced, and the team that's going to be building on this site is almost entirely African-American developers and contractors that's going to be building it. And they have not just past experience working in North Lawndale, but also some of them are from the community originally as well. And the reason why we chose them is because we know that they're going to do a better job of hiring locally. We know that they're going to prioritize small businesses from the community and filling the commercial and retail spaces, and that we refer to it as community wealth building, and that we want to see the benefits of this investment go back to people who live there. And again, to address the affordability issues, like for example, that project is going to include, affordable rental units, but the city owns a lot of Lawndale, like I mentioned before. So we have the opportunity to build new affordable housing. We have the opportunity to work with the Department of Housing to leverage resources that allow folks to stay in the community, whether they're homeowners or whether they're renters. So I think that we are committed to, the folks who are there now, as well as, wanting to try to, build on some of those vacant lots and bring some of the population back to North Lawndale. Alderman Scott will be the first one to tell you that the population of the community right now is at about a third of what it was at its height. So, we see a neighborhood that has a lot of potential, to be an attractive place for families and, a diverse population to live. And then in terms of arts, I mentioned Invest Southwest, DCASE, that manages public art in the city. They're a part of that initiative as well. And I know that they are very committed to working with artists in the community. And in all the conversations that I personally have had with them, I have told them, if we're doing art in North Lawndale, it's got to be an artist that is, if not from the community, from the West Side, that knows this neighborhood. So, I hope to continue, beating that drum. Let's see.
One thing to say, I think one additional thing is that this is your project as well. Like, I don't want you to see this as the city or as us as a design team coming in and kind of putting things onto the neighborhood. I think really like these sort of forums are great for us because it helps to really inform the team with what those priorities are that you outlined, like really about supporting local artists. And we have a team that's experienced in working on projects that do the same thing, that are really about sort of supporting the community, finding opportunities for job creation, finding opportunities for keeping affordability and preserving affordability. And we're at the right place in a project like this to do that from the start and to put those frames in to really guide the project moving forward, instead of kind of letting that stuff happen and then being like, oh well, all gentrification and all of that sort of thing kind of move forward. Like we're hoping to address that from the start, and we really appreciate folks like you coming on and telling us kind of and giving us that direct feedback, because we're gonna really take that into account and put that into the work that we're doing so far.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thank you, Andrea. I believe Miguel Bautista.
Hi. Thank you. I had one comment, but now I made it into two because you just brought up a sad stuff about losing a lot of people that in the Lawndale community. So, I have a question on that. Is the city making any plans of inviting a lot of those members that were pushed out of the community when this development come up? In other words, many of the people that got displaced, are they going to be invited back to make sure that they have be part of the process, and not only be part of the process, but also be integrated into the housing once it's built? And the second question that I had, my original question, is actually, is the city working with Cook County to make sure that longtime residents, that their taxes don't get raised, that they don't get, again, pushed out? Is there a freeze for them so that a longtime resident in our community can still be here and be able to see the fruit of all these changes that are coming up? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. And just for everybody who's already asked the questions, if you can please go back on mute again when you're done, I'd appreciate that. So the first point, I think that's something that's fairly difficult in terms of, folks. I mean, people have left North Lawndale, I think, for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on past history of it. I think there are other folks who are better equipped to do that. But what I would say is that the loss of former, even like the building stock in the community, and the sort of outflow of residents is a larger product, I think, of institutional racism and disinvestment, and that these are things that happen over long periods of time. So that's not the kind of thing where we can say, oh, hey, reach back out to somebody who was formerly a resident. I mean, it's very difficult for the city to do something like that, but we do want to welcome folks back into the community and make sure that it's inclusive in terms of affordability. And then I'm sorry,
Brian, before you go to the second one, really quick, the one thing I would add on that first question was about homeownership for prior residents who have left. We know that Reclaiming Communities is one of the larger homeownership initiatives that's currently underway. It's being in part led by LCDC, and that homeownership initiative is starting with a smaller pilot project to get a few hundred affordable units, a couple hundred affordable units off the ground, and they are marketing those units to both existing residents in North Lawndale and then also people who have prior roots in North Lawndale. So one of the ways to preserve affordability and then also attract prior residents is to leverage those community connections. And we know that there are nonprofits doing that already, and the city is certainly supportive of those efforts and engaged in those projects. And then Brian, the second question was on taxes.
Oh, yeah, excellent. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so, there is the possibility to work with the assessor's office and see what kind of options are out there. But I know that that's been a part of efforts in the past, and there are certain exemptions that exist. I don't know if a freeze is something that they do, but I know that they do offer various options. So yeah, I mean that's something that will consideration is we finished this this project. Let's see, I believe it's Paul Norrington. Although I'm not seeing your name here. Okay. All right. I think I would like to move on because we've only got limited time, and we want to make sure that we get to the parts around the open space and recreation. So thank you, everyone. We are going to have some more Q&A after this, but we do have some folks who need to have a stop at 6:30. If you don't mind, I'd like to move ahead with that.
Thanks, Brian. Paul Peters here with Hood Design Studio, and we're a Black-owned landscape architecture practice out of Oakland, California. And I just want to say thank you for inviting us into your community and allowing us to work with you as we begin to develop these ideas. Again, this is the second community meeting. And so flip to the next slide, please. The first community meeting, when we came, we asked a lot of questions. We asked you, kind of, what do you want to see? What do you love about the Lawndale line? What do you love about your community? And so we asked, what are some of your favorite spaces? And out of that came three main themes, three categories that we heard. And so people thought it was really important to talk about heritage and the history and the stories of the neighborhood. The second was people were really interested in the arts and a kind of range of arts along the line in a way that it can be used for experience, but also for economic development and for culture. And the third topic that came out was ecology, and a kind of a wide range of ecology. And by that, I mean, how do we link into these existing parks? How do we create places for people that are healthy? And also, people were really interested in thinking about the habitat value and birds and bees and butterflies as well. And so it's this really beautiful feedback that we've received so far. And so the set of ideas that we're going to show you today reflect on advancing those and asking you again, iterating some ideas and questions back to you for further input. Some of the main questions we have, we know this is 2 miles, it's 40 acres. And so some of the main questions we have is, where should it start and where should it stop? Does it need to be the whole 2 miles? Where are the most important places, for example? Other questions that we have are, how do you want to get on and off the line? Where are the most important places? And what are the most important things that we should connect to, right? Is it important that we connect to the roads? Is it important that we connect to parks or community spaces or places of development or places where people live? And so we'd love to have your feedback related to that so we can make sure that you can get safely on and off the Lawndale line, Altenheim line. Next slide. And as we begin to look at these places for connections, we think it's really important to begin to identify, as I was mentioning, these new focus areas for development, but also beginning to identify places like schools, the YMCA, the Home and Center, these community and cultural places that are important today. And so the question is, how can we reinforce these existing patterns and uses? And so that when we build this new line, that is reinforcing what's already there. It's helping you already and not something that's new. And so we think it's really important that we create these connections to the places you already use. Because there's different ways that we can think about getting up to the line since it's elevated. We can have elevated ramps that are lit that bring you up. We can have stairs that integrate ramps, creating places for people to sit and gather, but also allowing ADA accessibility. And the third is looking at a set of stairs and lifts. And so using an outdoor elevator as a place to bring you up, which can also become beacons or icons in the landscape. Next slide, please. In terms of ecology, we began to look at strengthening and diversifying the existing landscape. And so we went through and we color coded it. And we noticed that there's already this existing forest. There's already gardens that people are making. There's food gardens and community gardens. And so building on what's already there as far as landscapes, and then the meadow, which is pretty much what the line is today, which is just the openness. And so we went through, we color coded and said the existing forests, the gardens and the meadows, we just want to build on what's there and improve the biodiversity for birds, butterflies, animals, and then think about how people can move through these landscapes. And so here it's beginning to set up this idea of a ribbon. So as you move from forest to garden to meadow, the landscape changes, but it also creates biodiversity, improves that biodiversity through diversity of the landscape. So we're curious, next slide, what kind of landscape types you want to see. And so when we think about a forest, for example, it can be a woodland, or it can be an orchard, or a clearing or a grove. And so there's different types of meanings for each of these landscapes. So for example, a meadow could be a prairie for birds and butterflies, but it could also be a place where you can go sledding in the winter. It can be a place for overlook, so we can lift it up and create sculptured landform for kids to play, or for beauty in the landscape and places to have prospect, or thinking about amphitheater and music. And then gardens, they don't necessarily need to be about food or butterflies. We can have beer gardens, we can have stormwater gardens, we can have solar gardens, for example. And so again, it becomes this cultivated landscape. As you can see here is this palette of landscape types that we'd love to hear from you on what you would like to see. The next topic was heritage, the main thing that we heard. And people were really interested in how can we tell stories along the line? And so we began to look at the path as the line itself, the paving, began to look at gates and gateways that intersect with the line. And so places that you come on. And the third was this notion of views. And so there are questions that we have is what kind of stories can we integrate along the path, whether it's names in the bricks or images. At the gateways, can we integrate heritage into these places? So as you enter the line, the gateways could begin to integrate stories into them. And we'd love to hear from you what that should be. And places of views. So we can create these promontories or outlooks to frame the city, to frame the neighborhood. Maybe there's places that you want us to create views towards, to talk about the history of this place. Next slide, please. And lastly is the arts, which was one of the biggest topics that we got feedback on. And so we looked at 6 different ways of thinking about art based on the feedback. So we have music, cinema, theater, art, spoken word, and performance. And beginning to think about how these uses, these program types can get played out in the landscape. And so could you imagine, an amphitheater with music in a forest, for example, with views of the city? At Home and Square, maybe we take advantage of some of those industrial walls, those old warehouse walls, and actually have outdoor cinema or art projections along the walls. There could be stoops for spoken word and rap. Someone was interested in a skate park, but integrating music into the skate park, and places for outdoor stages, theater, and dance. And so we'd love to hear from you what kind of program types related to the art you'd like to see. Next slide, please. And then as we begin to move along the line, you can see here just the section and thinking about it. And on the top, you can see parts of the line are dirt, where it's lifted up always. And so we begin to sculpt that landscape. And so you see here, we're always thinking about art, heritage, and ecology. So again, using that side of the landscape to create an outdoor stage, or framing views through a promontory where it's stepped. And so maybe there's something we want to talk about through the history. And then the landscape itself, ecology through meadows and particular garden types. On the bottom where it crosses the streets, it's on structure. And so it's lifted up and we have walls on the side. And so maybe the walls can be integrated into these gateways. We can have murals or art along the edges, or whether they're more of a sculpture installation, and thinking about how lighting can play into performance and taking advantage of tree canopy for ecology, but also creating shade. Next slide, please. And so as you can see here, as we begin to look at this, it's not a singular thing. We can begin to create this in-depth hybrid landscape, thinking about these key topics of art, ecology, and heritage as you move along. Next slide.
So yeah, thanks, Paul. And again, we have some more interactive polling here around some of the questions that Paul raised. So first, just in terms of what are the most convenient or the most appropriate points for accessing the trail, kind of a lot of options here, I know, but just, all the major streets where that might provide access. This will allow you to, select up to 5. Like what sites do you think should be prioritized for access that would be the most, beneficial to the community?
inputs. Yeah, it was like, so it seems like Costner, Independence, California are really coming to the top, and Holman as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing that it's important to just think about access all the way along the line. There's no hierarchy either,
Yeah.
which is great.
Sorry, I was going to say the other question that was in the Q&A we can open up for when we after the instant polling. So yeah, I mean, I think that there are some locations that make a lot of sense here. Obviously, with Independence being the boulevard, already being a connection to another green space, and Homan being the heart of the Homan Square campus. California is kind of more of a connection to like the East Garfield Park side, and Costner. There will be a future city subsidized development that occurs there, which will likely, is going to be predominantly industrial, but, we all of the development proposals have anticipated the trail essentially running through it. Okay, this is slowing down a little bit, and I want to keep us moving, so I'm going to move ahead to the next, which I believe is the last one. So some of the examples that Paul called out there, and this is another ranking exercise. So again, it's there's no wrong answers here, but what would you like to see the most in terms of like cultural programming? Okay, we've got public art installations, stoops for seating and performance, outdoor stages for performance, areas for projecting movies, followed by murals and skate park.
And I think one thing that's interesting about the line is that, because it is the segment that we're looking at is roughly 2 miles long. There's a lot of opportunity for all of these things to happen, in multiple spaces along the line itself.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely correct. And I think another thing here that, we will want to address, like in the feedback when we open up after this, is just, how can this look like and feel like and represent, North Lawndale and Garfield Park as well. All right, I believe that this is the last one here. Yeah, okay. So I'll leave that last one open, actually. I don't know if I can do there. So yeah, you should still be able to respond to it. And then I'm gonna just go back to our discussion slides here. So if you'd like, so there is a question in the Q&A. Will you be speaking about how the project will affect crime and how it will impact traffic? I mean, first from, the traffic point of view, this is ideally, this will have a beneficial impact on traffic and encourage more folks to get out of their cars, to, have a safe route, across the community for, traveling by bike or on foot. This is not a kind of situation where we're anticipating, creating a parking lot for folks to access it. So we hope that this will have a beneficial impact on vehicular traffic in the area. A traffic study is not part of this project. In terms of crime, taking land right now that's currently vacant and developing land that's currently sitting vacant and bringing it into an active use, generally this is the kind of thing that we like to promote in neighborhoods that do have issues with public safety, putting more eyes out on the street, putting more, pedestrians out to inhabit some of these spaces that right now are lesser utilized. I understand it's not a 100% solution to the issues of public safety, but DPD does feel that is helpful to addressing public safety issues and improving them. David, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well, but if anyone else would like to raise their hand to speak up, feel free to do that now. So let's see. I see Blanche raised her hand. Go ahead, Blanche.
Thank you, Brian. I would like, as far as the history going up on the rail, I would like to see the past, present, and future of North Lawndale incorporated along the trail, whether it be through looking at a picture and pushing a recording button and you hear that person talk about their life there, or just things of that nature. So people will understand the community better, and it will also show the diversity of the community. And along that trail, I would also like to see sculptures that may reflect on some of the more notable people that came out of North Lawndale. Also along there, I would like to see about the major events that have happened in North Lawndale. So let the trail be just that, a trail of North Lawndale history, because we do have a story to tell. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Blanche. That's an excellent comment. I also want to give some of the folks who from the last time a chance to speak. So that's Altenheim. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, but here, sorry, let me allow you. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no worries. Olsen Alcantara, also known as Tito, like the vodka. I just had a question and a comment. When do you anticipate securing financing for this project, if not already?
Yeah, that's a very big and excellent question. So, uh, funding hasn't been secured for this project as of yet. You know, this is something that we need to do to get the ball rolling on that, because if we don't have a scope of work, if we don't have a community process, then it's really difficult for us to go out. Whether that of funding opportunities from the federal government, from the state, or local. Uh, so, this first step here will allow us to, do an engineering study that'll help us put a price tag on this. And, when we're, taking those further steps forward, we can say, oh, we went out to the community and they said this. So it's going to help guide the scope of work going forward and allow us to, make applications for funding. So, there are times where, like the governor or the State Department of Transportation will come to CDOT or come to DPD and say, give us some projects. We have a capital bill. So, what do you need money for? So this allows us to have a project that's, quote unquote, shovel ready in the near future.
And also, this is more of a comment, and it's probably not very popular, but I grew up in Humboldt Park, right where the 606 begins, born and raised. And I remember when, legend was, don't go underneath that viaduct or you'll get killed. And I played sports in high school, never was involved in gangs, but it was also always very stressful. Which street should I ride my bike in just to go to the gym, and at what corner should I turn? I go there now, and yeah, it is a little strange, the demographic or whatnot. Sometimes I may feel like I'm not welcome, but I never have felt threatened. Where I live at now, I'm always looking over my shoulder. There were 3 murders between June 30th and July 21st in front of my building where I currently reside. And I don't want to live like that. So yeah, there are challenges. I say this to those who may oppose this. There are challenges. Change is not always fun. If this were to come to fruition, but I'd rather deal with gentrification than have to deal with whether or not I'm going to live it the next day, especially for the kids.
Yeah. Thanks for your comment. I guess I would say that, it's our hope that we could, achieve a, better degree of public safety without gentrification. I don't think that gentrification is the only way of accomplishing that. And, I mean, the 606 has been around for a while, and I agree with the point that you're getting at, that it's not to say that crime never occurs on the 606, but that bringing people there to walk, to bike, putting lighting on it has really improved the environment for public safety there. So thank you. Ana Padilla. Oops.
I recently saw an article of communities in the West and the South, especially communities of color, being ticketed, having the highest tickets for like their bike riding on the sidewalks. So how is this project going to connect with any existing bike lanes?
That's an excellent question, and I think something that we're looking to figure out here is, when we're asking, hey, where should we provide access to the trail? I mean, obviously, we're going to take a look at it on our own to do our own analysis, as well, to make sure that when we're talking about the best access points, that we're taking feedback from the community, but then we're also looking at the existing infrastructure, as well as bike infrastructure, as well as public transit too. So are there bus connections? We want to make sure that like people aren't driving to get here. It's how can you take the bus here? How can you use existing on-street bike infrastructure to make a connection here? And then we're also wanting to provide meaningful and safe connections to like other amenities like Douglas Park or, you know, in the boulevard system that's just kind of inherently bike friendly. So yeah, you know, point taken, and this is absolutely something we're considering in the project.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, that we're like we're talking about it as a line, but it's part of a network of streets and of bike lanes and of, sort of, as Brian mentioned, transit. So all of those things are kind of being taken into account, like how it intersects with those, and kind of as we move forward into kind of the design visioning stage, we're going to dig into a little bit more of like, how that could happen at those key intersections, and how to try and overcome the physical issues of grade change and that sort of thing, but really connect into the existing network of bike lanes and find opportunities to engage the boulevards and those other key assets that are in the area.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, David. So I'm starting to lose track of if you're you already made your comment or question. If you can please lower your hand virtually. I believe that Kenneth Turner is next, and then Barbara, see you as well. Let's see. Yeah, Kenneth.
Go ahead, Shannon. Ask the question.
I just said my question was.
Ask the question.
What question? I don't have a question.
How are you guys? This is Kenneth Turner. I got two questions actually. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Okay, I have two questions. First, the first question is, my property is right backed up to the trail itself. The wall is my backyard, and this wall has been decaying for years. Are they going to repair that wall? Are they going to repair the alleyway? And my second question is, what other methods are you guys using to reach out to the community at large to get their total opinion?
Most of the homeowners.
Most of the homeowners, because most of the homeowners on my block, I've been on this block for 50 years. Most of the homeowners on this block don't use computers. They can't use Zoom. They don't know they actually don't know much about this project. And I've been dealing with this wall. I ran into this wall hundreds of times when I was 6 years old playing football. So I know this rail quite well. And I go on my back porch and I can see directly on the rail. But right now it's so decapitated was decaying so bad with the walls falling apart and there's debris falling. I got trees that's growing out of the tracks itself right now. The tree is like 2 stories and I had to clean up leaves. Is all of that stuff going to be addressed for the homeowners that is directly attached to this trail?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So like I mentioned, to go back to my previous comment before, this first framework plan is going to pave the way for, as the project progresses, an engineering study. And I'd like to say, first of all, that, the city does not own the infrastructure. It's owned by the railroad, which is CSX. So I can't really speak to
Good, Brian.
Maintenance of that. But obviously, if the city were going to invest in, the ownership would probably be mixed here as well, because like David mentioned earlier, there is an active rail line up there, and the city may or may not have a chance to purchase the entire rail right of way. Some of it may continue to be privately owned, but any engineering study would certainly identify like the infrastructure improvements that need to be made, and that would go into like a funding request. But if you look at the 606, those walls were improved, so from probably other kids running into them when they were younger too, and not being repaired for a long time. So that would be a part of any assessment that was done. And then to your point about engagement, we have had 2 meetings that were in person, and then we've worked with Jesse from NLCCC to actually go hand out flyers in person, but also to property owners. Apologies if you've not heard about this before. Glad you're able to join tonight, but we are making a concerted effort to reach out to folks, not just virtually and online, but also in person as well.
When is the next meeting?
When, if you guys can still hear me, when will the next meeting be held?
We don't have a
What
date
day?
on that yet, but another thing too that is worth mentioning right now is that we are going to have a survey. You can go to, I'll pull that up here. It's the link here. I probably should have put this up a little bit earlier, but folks can reach out to us via that survey. It's really a lot of the same content that you've already seen here and had a chance to get feedback on, but more in depth. So please do go to that website that's there.
Take a picture.
Could you hold that for a second? We need to take a picture of that.
Yeah, all right, Kenny, if you don't mind muting yourself, I'm going to move on to the next question here.
Okay.
So, Barbara, since you've already had a chance to ask a question, I'm going to move to Brian Quinn, who has not spoken yet, but I do hope to get to everyone's questions.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to speak as someone who lives near the 606 trail, and my mother-in-law owns a home not far from this property that you're discussing tonight. I've lived in Logan Square / Humboldt Park, 1 block away from the 606 trail for about 21 years. And I am blown away by the utter shift in the population in this area. It used to be a working class Puerto Rican neighborhood, and now it is virtually 100% white people, high paying jobs. None of the working class families that I moved in near are here anymore. So I would just be very fearful if I was a property owner near the trail, especially the gentleman who just talked about being right on the trail. Those properties on the 606 here are $1 million plus homes now, and the taxes go up astronomically. So I'm hopeful that a lot of people who can are taking advantage of senior tax freezes. And I hope that contributions to communities can be made with beautification and recreation, but the 606 really had a somewhat devastating effect on the working class population and totally changed the neighborhood. And I don't know that it was necessarily for the better. It's certainly a beautiful recreational trail, but it drastically changed the neighborhood. And I hope that safeguards are put in place as much as can be to keep that area the beautiful African-American community that it is with working class people. And I hope that the people there can continue to live there and rent there and own there in affordability, because that certainly was not the case on vast sections next to the 606 trail. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks for your comment, Brian. I think we've spent quite a bit of time actually on that issue already and had some polling questions that were related to it. So I'm going to move on to the next. All right, if everybody can please mute who is done speaking. So Barbara, I believe you also had your hand up.
Let's see, it's down now. She may have had it up from earlier.
Sorry, it's not coming up. Okay. Okay, here. Okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Okay. I'm very interested in what's going on in North Lawndale. Like the gentleman said before, I've been here through all the bad, so I want to, capitalize on what the good is. But you're drawing from a population that, I was supposed to be on another Zoom meeting about another project that's going on in North Lawndale. Are you coordinating your efforts with other projects that are going on? So, and I guess the alderman could have a grid to give us a picture of what's going on all around us, you know, because I'm interested in all of it, but I can't be everywhere. So I kind of need somebody to coordinate all of these activities so that I can, you know, plug myself into where I'm most interested. And also, I'm a woman of a certain age, and I'm wondering, are you building in some multi-generational type aspects to say getting to the overpass and all of that, like ramps or elevators or something like that? Because you might build it and I can't enjoy it because of mobility issues or things like that. I want you to be, you know, aware that, you know, there's more than the Gen X's and, you know, those people that would want to have access to these items that we're building now.
That's an excellent comment on this. You know, I think if you look to the 606 as an example, all of the access points are accessible, or, you know, ADA compliant, if you're familiar. And, you know, so there's no stairs there. So, you know, accessibility would be a huge priority here. And, you know, we want to make this as inclusive as possible. So I'm sure that, you know, any engineering and design that's done around this project will prioritize that. And to your comment just about, you know, kind of greater planning efforts in North Lawndale, you know, I'm the lead planner for North Lawndale, as well as, you know, several other communities on the west side. I put my email in the chat there if anybody would like to reach out to me, or if you have any specific questions. So there is a lot going on. But I think that that's part of the reason why this project is happening as well, is because it ties into our other planning efforts on the Ogden Avenue and West Southwest corridor, as well as the Roosevelt Costner site. So do please feel free to reach out to me. So let's see, we've got a lot going on here. I believe Paul Norrington, go ahead.
Yes, I put this in the question and answer section. You mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned the Ogden Avenue project earlier, and I was wondering what type of business is in that project. And you responded that it was a housing, retail, restaurant, community arts, and tech center. Are the community arts and tech center, do they contribute to our local tax base, or are they not for profit?
So the majority of the development, and I don't want to spend too much time in this meeting talking about a different project, and you can go on to, if you go to, you know, chicago.gov/DPD, you can go to the Invest Southwest page, and it'll share information with you about this project. You can also look it up too. They've covered it in like Block Club. So that is predominantly a tax generating project. It's housing, it's commercial development. Like I mentioned before, it's privately owned. It's an African American, you know, development team, and so yeah, it's worth reading more on it.
The reason I brought Ogden Avenue up is because Ogden Avenue has been inundated by not-for-profits, and Ogden was historically one of our great commercial centers with the auto dealerships. Roosevelt Road is historically a commercial center for our community. And I hope that Roosevelt Road doesn't become like Ogden, because now Ogden doesn't contribute anything to our local tax base. And the other thing is Roosevelt and Costner. That's within the purview of this, correct?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of stay away from questions related to that RFP on the trail. You know, I prefer to. If you want to find out, does your comment or question pertain to, you know, the rail line, the trail opportunity?
Well, my impression was that the trail would help develop the gateways. There's one at Roosevelt and Costner, and that whole area will be developed around that. I'm assuming. What I want to point out is that at the corner of Roosevelt and Costner is a large piece of debris that's left over from a historically significant time in our community. And whatever is built on the lot at Roosevelt and Costner in conjunction with the trail, that one piece should be kept as a memorial to a low point in our community's history and where we built ourselves back up from.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Again, everyone I'm seeing who has their hand up had their hand up before, so I'm not sure if it's because you still, if you have another question or comment, you know, it's just up from before. And we're also getting close to 7 o'clock here, so I want to make sure that you know, we're wrapping up on time. So here, I think right now it's a good time to wrap up. We've got a lot of good feedback here. I really appreciate everyone's comments and the questions that were asked. These are all, really great feedback and, really thoughtful questions. I know that this is a project that has the potential to have a big impact, but as I mentioned before, DPD and our other partners at the city are very committed to working with, the community residents and stakeholders and elected leaders here around this. You're our partners in this effort, and also committed to being transparent and continuing to hold meetings such as this one. We will have a third meeting. If you would like to be, we do have a North Lawndale email list. So if there's anything that is, happening related to the community, we have a email list that we can send blasts to. So you can either use that email address that's on the screen right there, dpd@cityofchicago.org. I also put my email in the chat, free to take any, additional questions or comments. So there's the project website at the top that I mentioned before. And we're just launching our survey, so you can use that bit.ly URL there to access the survey. And then we're also going to have the survey posted to the website. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but if you go to that URL that's at the top, that survey should be live. It'll be live before the end of tomorrow on the website. So yeah, I'd just like to, David, Karen, if you have any other additional closing comments, just feel free to chime in here.
Thanks, Brian. I'll, just say a couple of things. Really appreciate the comments that you guys have all sort of given us. We appreciate your time. And sort of really, all of the things that you mentioned are things that we, kind of are passionate about, development without displacement. How do we sort of improve communities so that folks who have, sort of as folks mentioned, live through, kind of what it is, it can see the prosperity in the future. So we're really excited about bringing in and taking all of that input and all of your comments into the process and trying to create a design vision that really reflects all of those key ideas.
All right. Well, yeah, we're at 7 o'clock. Thanks again to everyone for joining us this evening. And please do continue to follow the project, share it via word of mouth, social media, and, reach out to us if you're not getting distribution for, correspondence related to this project or other things that are going on in North Lawndale. So yeah, with that, thanks again, everyone, and have a great evening. And again, thanks to everyone from our team who presented tonight. An excellent job.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Great job.